Thanks, Mary Louise. I'm not 100% sure how we're going to be able to get the feedback from the sessions. I hope you all enjoyed your session and got into one. That is in process, I hope. But just let me ask a couple of questions that came up. One of the issues really is the question of communications. And I think that communications has become something that's really important across the whole academy. Sinead, would you like to say a little bit about how the communications work that's been going on in the development and how that can help in business development?
Yeah, I sometimes feel communications can be a catch-all kind of word, but ultimately where it works really well is on the back of understanding what your offerings are, who might be interested in that in terms of their needs, and our ability to deliver a service to match those needs, and it's priced right and we're able to contract with them. So there's a number of elements that you need to kind of understand about who we are, what we do, so that the communications and marketing teams know, well, who is it you're trying to attract with what product, and what information can I make available, be it on the website or and what mode of communication might be suitable. So for instance, I know they're considering, maybe perhaps a quarterly newsletter in which you're able to showcase the work that we've done, and have different interviews with project sponsors or a day in the life of our analysts and so on. And you're just, to Gearóid's point, creating awareness of who we are and what we do in a way that people can kind of learn at their leisure, in a medium that they're used to and that they want to receive, be it a physical newsletter or a digital one. But ultimately, communications, good communications is when you're clear about who you are and what you do and what you're selling and to whom and so on. So there's always when do you go out and tell people, but what am I saying? You know what I mean? And if they say great, well, am I ready to kind of respond to that? So I think Nicholas Stathers on the team and Judy and a good few people are working together with us to say in the next year, who are the different clients that you'd like to work with and what kind of projects. And so all the communications that we do is talking to our ability to be able to do that, and we're in their mind's eye. And I think when I was in our group, say communications might have been bumping into people across the quad and going to meetings, and so now that we're working virtually, how do we keep those professional relationships casually in people's mind's eyes? Because it was quite easy to go to an event and pop in and see different people say, oh, I wanted to talk to the academy, I'm stuck with this particular thing. So I think communications is critical, but it works really well when you have the clarity around what it is you're saying. I don't know if the other panelists have a view on that, but that's my take.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one of the other questions that I can see, thanks, I think it's Sarah's posting the questions, and I've got into seeing how that's happening. So that's good. And the questions coming up from the panel, or from the breakout sessions. So one of the other questions that people are looking at are, well, there are two things really, and they're perhaps related. There is a question of who are our competitors, who are we actually competing with? And then is there a question of maybe looking at clients that might not be part of UCC? I know Sinead mentioned that earlier on. Mary, do you want to say anything about who else is providing the sort of service that we do, and something maybe about going outside UCC?
Thanks, Pat. I think in the first instance, we're competing in a lot of instances against UCC, in the sense that they always think that they have somebody else to do the job there, and we're always kind of competing against free, because a lot of the services that they can get internally, they don't pay for. So that's at a very basic level, we're competing against somebody else in UCC being able to do it. Secondly, a lot of people, our competitor would be budget holders in UCC picking up the phone to Morgan McKinley, to recruitment agencies, and hiring a person. So we have to be able to demonstrate that we're actually better value, and better value not even just in monetary terms, but in terms of our knowledge of the university and the university systems and the governance structures and the way business gets done. Then second or thirdly, then you're looking at, well, they could pick up the phone to a graphic design company downtown. And then again, you are definitely competing on price there, because we are in a VAT group with UCC. So if UCC engage us to do graphic design or any service for them, then they don't pay VAT, and that's 23%. So if you actually engage H&A or I don't know, in any other company downtown, Alan O'Sullivan, they are quite expensive and you're just one small client to them. Whereas in actual fact, the service that you'll get from us will be, not only will it be financially better, better value, you'll also get a different type of service who knows your business better. They would be, then fourthly, I suppose you're talking about consultants, you're talking about KPMG, PwC, Ernst & Young, who we are now trying to pitch ourselves in the same space as them, because most of our project center staff have come from there. So we are now trying to say we are now a boutique consultancy company. We understand UCC so much better than any third party out there. And because we are now in business for over 5 years, we have an understanding and a unique understanding of what UCC needs and wants and how it works. Is that does that help, Pat?
Yeah, that's great. I wondered who might be able to take up the idea of working with other people besides UCC. Are there opportunities there? Marie-Louise, you look as if you're going to say something there.
Definitely, Pat. During the time that we've been outside of the university campus, we've been reaching out to our other colleagues in the other universities across Ireland, certainly to begin with. And I can certainly say that when I was speaking to them in Trinity, UCD, Queen's University in Belfast, none of them were as far along as us in terms of their development of a virtual offering. So certainly within the role of the academics world, there's other opportunities outside UCC in other universities, but also this service offering that we're looking at here, this on air, like it could be picked up and used by anybody who wants to run a conference. So in actual fact, it's even more so expanding our opportunities for business development, because there's other offerings out there that are like this, but to be honest, it's one of the best that I've seen. So I really believe that it's something that we can harness and use externally outside of UCC, because it's such a unique platform and product. Hopefully today went well enough that we would be able to use today as one of our examples of a session that went really, really well. So I definitely feel there's opportunity not only in the academic world, but beyond that as well for the Conference UCC and on air.
That's great. Thanks, Marie. And of course, we would also maybe perhaps, Garrod, come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the very top level, because we have a forum and we have most people joined in here today, I think the message that's really important is that we all feel confident that we have the tools to go out and sell the Academy, whether that's internally or externally. And that needs to be communicated to us so people know exactly who it is we can approach and who we can sell to, and that we have the tools, that we have a clear value statement, that we have a very clear sense of the communication, and very, an understanding, very tangible understanding of next steps. I have an incidental conversation on the street at a forum, and I see that there's an opportunity here. Very clear to me, there needs to be a document I can go to tell me what happens next. In what area is this? Who am I referring it to? How do I communicate? Who do I refer this to? Who do I pass it on to? How do I keep the engagement going? And how do I communicate effectively to that prospective client that we have a value to offer to them? So I think that should be very clear coming out of today's session.
Yeah, thanks, Garrod. And that does answer. There are a couple of questions that are coming in on the basis of, what can we do as individuals? How do we work it? How can we contribute? What's expected of us? That's the sort of question that's coming in a couple of times. And yes, I think that's something. This conversation we're having now is really the beginning of trying to put something like that together. And we are looking at business development as something that everybody can get involved in. But just saying a little bit again about going outside UCC, there is sort of a kind of philosophy in some sense. The UCC Academy works it's a very public service orientated company, and I think that we wouldn't necessarily want to go and compete with PwC in some sort of straightforward business organization development, but perhaps stay closer to home and look for other public service. Sinead, would you like to say a little bit about how we're being viewed by public service in general?
Probably as unique. I suppose when we interact with our colleagues across the civil or the public service, what UCC has created in the UCC Academy seems different. And, you know, that competitor question, like Mary answered it so well there, and I know why she's saying PwC in that, because you're saying we're as brilliant as, but we're very different. And I think, you know, the perception with us is that we'll take on massive projects and work within a very tight budget and commit to delivering it. I don't think why we're different to the larger firms is they just wouldn't take on those projects under those terms because it would be too hard to do and too many risks to manage. So I think, you know, like we've multiple million type projects and we put on one person with a distinct number of days because that's all the budget they have. I think it's also important, you know, we did a lot of work on our values and the type of company we are, and hopefully every employee feels that we are a certain type of company, and I guess there's respect and professionalism and people have integrity. And when I meet other public service companies, the fact that we're set up not to make money as other consulting firms are, we're just set up to break even and to be able to cost so that we can recover our own costs and give you the best service, but that we're very cost effective, and yet we don't skimp on value or our ability or the talent within the team. So I think it's like a unique blend. It's like our motives aren't, you know, to maximize shareholder wealth, which is exactly what those companies need to be, and that's what their boards are, that's their KPIs, that we really just want to give you the best project manager for that piece of work, because whatever that work is trying to, like reducing the patient waiting list, we aspire to those kind of projects and to kind of help those kind of teams to achieve those kind of contributions. And that seems to fit with UCC because they would look to the student experience and teaching and learning and research. So I think overarching thing is that we're unique, and it's very, very smart what UCC has done in setting up the academy. And how can I engage with that? How can I hire that? And that's the BD work to happen. That if the Department of Health or if the, you know, different people within our industry need project management, international conference or funding or prime support, how could they do business with us easily? And I think that's probably the next area of business development, because in our group, Gwen Howe would have mentioned that, you know, we're kind of known within UCC, but how do we become known beyond that? Because I think if people knew what we offered, they would be very interested in buying that.
Thanks, Sinead. And you know, just to emphasize really that, you know, we've been making comparisons perhaps with PwC and some of the other consultancy firms, but basically, like UCC Academy has a whole range of different. We have obviously the conference center, Conference UCC, and Mary-Louise just mentioned that, and a unique offering. But we have a whole range of different skills, and for example, in Prime, you know, the majority of the work goes into putting forward applications for Horizon 2020. But we have also been involved in putting forward applications for different types of funding. You know, we were involved in the project for the application to the government for the Higher Education Special Innovation Fund for the CUBS building, and that was successful. It was a project that was led by UCC Academy, but it was a cross-fertilized project that was done by the Project Centre and with the help of Prime. So it's possible, and we also have an enormous thing, which is again coming up in now in November, which is the European Researchers' Night, or what we call Cork Discovers, which we ran for 2 years, and that's a very big cross academy project. And last year it was really run amazingly well by Conference UCC, and this year we've again been funded, and UCC has been funded, and UCC Academy is the sort of the managing partner, if you like, the project managing partner. And you know, the conference UCC is going to be running this in November rather than September, because it's been deferred, and we have to do it in a completely different way. And we're going to be reinventing the wheel of how to present our research to the community. So it's we have a lot of skills and across the whole academy, and I think it's great that we can all take responsibility. I think
and when you're chatting to the clients outside of UCC, you just talk about the UCC Academy. If you start talking about Prime or, you know, they just see a 50-person organization with, one of them said to me, it's like you've got all my problems and you've got the person to fix it, be it a project, a comms, funding, conference, you know what I mean? To them, how we organize ourselves in the background is secondary to, there's so much I could go to you for that would help me maybe pursue an opportunity like some of the work that we would do, or fix a problem. And that's when I've prepared for non-UCC client meetings, you're going through all your material and you're simplifying it. It's just the UCC Academy, we have a 50-person team, and these are all the different things that we can do. And they will take you where their pain or their opportunity is. And that's where, you know, you can have a good conversation around what we could do. So it's that real mix that just have organically and somewhat deliberately come together that's very interesting for them.
That's great. So we'll probably come to a conclusion in the next minute or two. Just to say, this is something, the beginning of a process, and the management team will be looking at this, and looking at bringing out to the whole academy, but also perhaps we have to do it differently from before, but this is an opportunity to perhaps do it in a more coordinated way, and to make sure that everybody knows how they can contribute to that project. So just before I finish, does anybody on the panel want to last few words? No? No? Okay. All right. So
I would just say that in my mind, before business development became part of, you know, what I needed to do, I had an old-fashioned image of, you know, door-to-door sales or something, of encyclopedias when it came to business development, and I would never have thought it was something I would aspire or like or be good at. And not saying, you know, but it actually is just meeting different people to form a mutual conversation around what you need and what we might have, and landing in that place and building up professional relationships of trust and all the rest. So I think everyone should feel, you know, capable of doing it, and we definitely need everyone's help. So if anyone is interested, I would love for them to connect, you know, to kind of become
I'd agree
part
with
of
that. I'd very much agree with that, Sinead. A lot of people are a little bit reluctant. It's not the door-to-door, as you said, Sinead. It's not the aggressive targeting of people, or not leaving the conversation until you have something sold. It's very much the building of relationships. It's over a long period of time. We might talk to somebody, you know, today, and a couple of months down the line, they might think, oh, do you remember that conversation I had with the academy about the Prime team being able to help me with funding, or God, I need a project manager for a couple of days a week for the next couple of months. So it's very much about having those conversations, finding out what the potential client might need, and understanding if we have a fit within the academy. But don't be afraid of it. It's really just forming relationships and maintaining them over what might be a period of time before you actually end up agreeing to work together. But I think it's within everybody's ability to be able to do business development.
Thanks, Marie-Louise. That's great. And do you want to? I'm not sure. Is there going to be perhaps maybe some sort of request for feedback on this process, but also feedback on you know, we can integrate both of those ideas together. So a question that might say, look, you know, we'd like you to get involved, but if anybody wants to bring up anything, and we will be asking again for more information from people, and how they want asking people to get involved in business development, but also you might want to sort of ask people, how did they find the experience of On Air?
Yes, I was just speaking before you joined this session, Pat, and there will be a survey that will go out to all attendees later today that Shan will be building, basically just to understand their experience. I know that a lot of people have been successful in getting into all of the sessions, joining the discussion groups and coming back to this closing session, but I also have a few people who have had difficulty getting into On Air in general. So I do want to just call out the amount of work that's gone into the build of this today, behind the scenes from Shan. Also, Jean would have prepared all of the how-to information that you guys would have received yesterday. So just congratulations to the team on a very successful first run of their first event on air. But hopefully everybody can see the potential in it. We've a lot to do. It's very, very new. We've a lot to learn. There's a lot of different functionality within the system that we have only scratched the surface of. So there'll be a lot of learning over the next number of months, but we're very, very excited to be able to share this new platform with the Academy, but also with the wider community in UCC.
Thanks, Marie-Louise. So thanks everybody for attending, and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you, Pat. Bye-bye.